There's always a moment, in every connection, where everything flips. 1 second you're enjoying each other, talking easily, feeling that spark, and the next you catch yourself thinking, where is this actually heading? What most men don't understand is this: she's thinking the exact same thing. But she's not going to ask it outright. Instead, she'll ask something else. Something that sounds casual, maybe even meaningless, but buried inside that simple sentence is the truth about whether she pictures you in her future, or only in her right now. And most guys answer without ever realizing what's really being evaluated. They miss the deeper conversation happening underneath. But once you finally understand what you're supposed to listen for, you'll never miss it again. Because this one question, it shifts everything. 1. Why this question matters more than you think. Let's be honest. When you're dating someone, especially once you're past a certain age, you're not looking to waste your time. You're not in your early 20s anymore, just floating around for years to see what happens. You want to know whether this person is serious, if there's potential, if the two of you are actually building towards something, or just filling time together. And women want the exact same thing. In fact, sometimes even more than you do. But here's where it gets complicated. A woman isn't going to stare you down on date 3 and ask, "Do you see a future with me?" That's too direct, too vulnerable, too much pressure. So she does something smarter. She uses questions that give her the answer without putting you on the spot. And this particular one, the one we're breaking down today, is genius because it sounds so harmless that you won't get defensive. It fits naturally into any conversation. But what it really does is tell her everything she wants to know. Does your life have space for her? Are you actually ready for something real? Should she invest, or should she start protecting her emotions? Think back to how many times a woman has asked you things that felt randomsy. What are your plans for the holidays? Where do you see yourself living long term? What's your family dynamic like? You probably answered normally, maybe even thoughtfully, but you had no idea you were being evaluated, not manipulatively, but in a "do our lives even fit together" kind of way. This is how emotionally intelligent people date. They don't push for promises. They don't force heavy talks before there's a foundation. They ask strategic questions that reveal compatibility and readiness, without making it uncomfortable. And when you're paying attention, you can do the exact same thing. But this specific question we're focusing on, it's different from everything else. It cuts right into whether you're emotionally available, whether you're focused on growth, whether your life has actual room for a partner. And that's the difference between dating casually and dating with intention. When you understand what she's really asking, 2 things happen. First, you can respond honestly but in a way that shows you're aligned. Second, you can use your own version of these questions to find out if she's serious too. It evens the playing field. It makes dating feel less like guessing and more like 2 adults figuring out if they fit. The right question doesn't demand an answer. It reveals one. 2. The question she's actually asking. Here it is. The question that tells her virtually everything she needs to know about whether you see her as part of your future. What are you working on right now? Like, what's taking your energy these days? Sounds simple, right? Like small talk. But here's the real meaning underneath. She wants to know whether your life is in motion, or whether you're stuck, whether you're growing or coasting, whether you're building something or just floating day to day. Because here's the truth. A woman who's thinking long-term needs to know you actually have a long-term. She needs to see that you're not just existing, but moving towards something. When she asks what's taking up your energy, she's checking for passion, purpose, direction. Not because you need to be wildly successful, but because she wants to see that you care about your own life, and aren't waiting for a relationship to give you purpose. She's also checking something subtle: capacity. If your answer is basically, "I'm drowning in work, I'm overwhelmed, I have 0 time," what she hears is, "I don't have room for you," even if you like her. On the other hand, if your answer is basically, "Nothing really, just hanging out," that's another red flag. Not because there's something wrong with downtime, but because it shows you're not building anything. And women who want a future want a man who is building one. Here's where men slip up. They answer literally, "I'm busy with work, some errands, going to the gym." Sure, it's honest, but it shows nothing about who you're becoming. What she wants to hear is intention. "I'm growing my business because I want more freedom long term." "I've been learning something new that I'm excited about." "I'm getting healthier so I'm ready for the next chapters of life." These kinds of answers show forward motion. They show direction. And here's the secret layer. Does your answer have space for partnership? You don't need to mention her. That'd be weird. But if everything you say is solitary, self-contained, closed off, she'll wonder whether you even want a relationship. She's not asking what you do. She's asking who you're becoming. 3. How to answer like a man who's ready. Now that you know what this question means, Here's how to answer in a way that's real and attractive. No lies, no performance. Just intentional communication. Start with something genuine you're actually invested in. Something that takes real mental or emotional space. Then add why it matters to you. That's the layer that communicates depth. I'm building my consulting practice because I want more control over my time. Then add a growth layer. I've been learning more about finances because I realized I need to sharpen up. Or, I'm working on being more present, which is harder than it sounds. This shows self-awareness, curiosity, evolution. Next, include something that connects you to people or meaning beyond yourself. I've been spending more time with family. I've been volunteering with a group that means a lot to me. That signals depth and emotional maturity. And most importantly, leave space. Don't make it sound like your life is so full nothing could ever fit. Even if you're busy, say it in a way that shows intentional balance. I'm working a lot, but I'm making sure not to let it take over everything. What this communicates is emotional availability. You have purpose, but you also have bandwidth. Here's what not to do. Don't complain. Don't be vague. Don't talk like you're waiting for life to start. The best answers are specific, positive, and open. You're showing that your life is stable but flexible, grounded but growing. You're not trying to impress her. You're showing her where she could realistically fit. 4. What her answer tells you. Here's the part men overlook. Once you understand this question, you can ask her the same thing. What's taking your energy these days? How she answers reveals everything about whether she's serious. Listen for these signals. Is she excited about her life? Is she growing, or just waiting for something to rescue her? Does she talk about only herself, or does she have room for connection? Is she balanced or burned out? Does she mention the future at all? If she has no sense of where her life is going, she's probably not thinking about where a relationship could go either. And pay attention to whether she asks the question back. Interest goes both ways. If she doesn't care about your goals or growth, she's not seeing this as a partnership. 5. Timing tells the truth. It's not just the question, it's when she asks it. Early on, she's efficient and purposeful. After a while, she's at a decision point. Never asks. That might be the answer in itself. She's living in the moment, not thinking long term, and how she asks matters too. In person, she's invested. Over text, she's testing the waters. Timing carries intention. Pay attention. 6. What changes when you both know the answer? When you both answer honestly and realize you're aligned, the whole dynamic shifts. You're not just dating anymore, you're building. You're not just having fun, you're investing. The energy becomes intentional. The connection becomes grounded, but alignment is only the starting point. Once you both want the same thing, the real work begins: compatibility, communication, compromise, growth. Readiness doesn't guarantee success, but it gives the relationship a real shot. The question is the doorway. What you do once you walk through it is what actually matters, because once that doorway opens, once both of you realize you're not just killing time, not just enjoying the moment, but actually aiming at something real, the entire dynamic transforms. You stop treating the connection like something fragile that might fall apart at any second, and you start treating it like something worth showing up for. And something interesting happens here. The relationship becomes calmer, more grounded. There's less anxiety, fewer mixed signals, fewer second-guessing games, because the foundation is no longer uncertainty. You both understand the intention. Now the focus becomes execution. When you reach that point, dates start to feel different. Not heavier, more meaningful. Conversations shift. You're not skimming the surface anymore. You're building depth, layering trust, learning each other's rhythms. It's no longer, do they like me? It becomes, how do we build something that lasts? But here's what a lot of men get wrong: just because you both want something real doesn't mean things suddenly become effortless. That's the trap guys fall into. They think clarity equals completion. It doesn't. Clarity equals responsibility. Because now you have direction. And direction requires action. You'll start seeing where you naturally align, and where you don't. You'll notice how you handle disagreements, how you both communicate under pressure, how you navigate expectations, boundaries, and emotional triggers. This is where two people either rise into a stronger partnership or realize the connection only worked when everything was easy. But here's the good news. When both people are intentional, the challenges become workable. You're not fighting to convince someone to stay. You're not chasing validation. You're building something together, and that shared intention makes all the difference. This is why that simple question, what are you working on right now, matters so much more than it seems. Because it filters out the people who aren't ready. It reveals who's living with purpose and who's drifting. It shows who has space for partnership and who's emotionally unavailable. It exposes whether the two of you are heading in remotely the same direction or not even on the same map. When a woman asks you that question, she's not asking about your schedule. She's trying to feel out your future. She's trying to see if her story could ever fit with yours. And when you ask her the same thing, you're doing the exact same assessment. Quietly, intelligently, without pressure. When two people pass that test, that's when things finally begin. Not the butterflies, not the surface chemistry, the real beginning. Because now you're both choosing each other with awareness, not fantasy. You're stepping into the dynamic, not as two people hoping something sticks, but as two adults who understand what real partnership takes. And that's where the strongest relationships come from. Not guessing, not pretending, not reading mixed signals, but knowing, clearly and confidently, that you're both ready to build something worth your time. And when you reach that level of clarity, when both of you understand the why behind the connection, something even deeper starts to happen. The relationship moves out of that early, uncertain phase where everyone is performing a little, holding back a little, trying to appear perfect. You stop needing to impress each other, and you start actually showing who you are. That's where emotional honesty comes in, not oversharing, not trauma dumping, but being real about your intentions, your standards, and the direction you're moving in. Most people never get here because their relationships never make it past the guessing stage. They spend months assuming, interpreting mixed signals, trying to decode behaviors that could mean 10 different things. They never ask the deeper questions, and they never answer them honestly. But once that question, the one about your energy, your focus, your path, comes into the conversation, it forces authenticity. It pushes both of you to reveal whether you're living in alignment with what you say you want. Because here's the truth: most men don't want to accept a relationship can only be as strong as the two people building it. If one of you is drifting, disconnected, or waiting for life to magically fix itself, the foundation will always feel unstable. When a woman hears you talk about what you're working on, how you're growing, what you're aiming for, she's not just listening to your words. She's feeling for consistency. Does what you say match how you live? Does your direction match your priorities? Are you a man in motion or a man avoiding his own potential? And you should be checking the same things in her. Not in a judgmental way, but in a realistic one. Because compatibility isn't about liking the same music or having fun on dates. That's surface level compatibility. Anyone can feel good in the moment. Real compatibility comes down to life trajectory. Are you both moving upward? Do your values align? Are you becoming better versions of yourselves, or just repeating old patterns with new people? When both people are growing, individually and together, the relationship becomes a multiplier. Your life expands because of the connection, not in spite of it. That's why emotionally intelligent dating isn't about games, strategies, or trying to win. It's about paying attention. It's about being grounded enough in yourself that you can evaluate the connection without letting infatuation cloud your judgment. And here's the part most men overlook. The question she asks you about what you're working on. It's not just about her assessing you. It's also her way of telling you she's ready for something serious. Without saying those words out loud, women rarely ask that question unless they're curious about where a man fits into their future. They don't waste energy evaluating men they don't see potential in. That question itself is a sign of interest, a sign of intention, a sign that she's thinking beyond the moment, even if she frames it casually. When you understand this, the whole dating landscape becomes clearer. The emotional noise quiets down, the confusion fades, the mixed signals make more sense, because now you're paying attention to the real conversation, the one happening underneath the words, the one that reveals readiness, direction, desire, and emotional availability. And once you start listening on that level, you stop wasting time with people who aren't aligned, and you stop missing opportunities with the ones who are. And here's the real twist. Not only is she replaying the date in her head, she's ranking it. Women compare men the same way men compare cars, careers, and competitors. She's thinking, how did he make me feel compared to the last guy who took me out? It's instinctive. It's subconscious. And it determines whether you hear from her again, or whether she quietly fades. But here's what most men never understand: her friends are the filter, but her emotional experience is the final judge. If she walked away feeling calm, feminine, seen, and a little bit curious about you, you're winning. If she walked away feeling confused, tense, or like she had to carry the conversation, you're already behind. This is why women often ghost men they were initially attracted to. Attraction starts the interaction, but emotional calibration decides the outcome. A woman can like your looks, your confidence, your vibe, but if she leaves the date and feels nothing, if she walks away and her emotions stay flat, if she's not replaying a moment in her mind, you won't see her again. Because women don't chase potential, they chase emotion, they chase energy. They chase the way a man makes them feel in his presence. And the men who understand this, who can give a woman a sense of emotional safety without being soft, a sense of mystery without being games, and a sense of confidence without being arrogant, those are the men she fights to keep.